3, the Honourable David Cunliffe.
Mr Speaker, to the Minister of Finance, how do rising interest rates affect New Zealanders' cost of living?
The Honourable Bill English.
Mr Speaker, interest rates are currently at 40-year lows. Last week, as a result of the recovering economy, the Reserve Bank Governor lifted the official cash rate for the first time since the middle of 2008. This will affect people in different ways. It increases returns on savings, which will assist groups like superannuitants, who generally hold lower levels of debt and higher levels of savings. On the other hand, rising interest rates increase debt servicing costs for mortgage holders and businesses. The member will be aware of that. He was part of a government that saw the floating mortgage rates reach 10.9% and an OCR of 8.25% as recently as 2008.
The Honourable David Cunliffe.
Mr Speaker, when putting together his recent Budget 2010 tax package, what consideration, if any, did he give to the extra pressure that $1.1 billion of extra borrowing would put on Governor Bollard to raise the OCR?
The Honourable Bill English.
Well, Mr Speaker, the tax package is in fact broadly fiscally neutral with some timing differences that lead to about a $400 million shortfall in the first year. But I think the member needs to keep in mind that when interest rates are at a 40-year low, one thing is certain: they will eventually return to normal levels, and those normal levels for the OCR are quite a bit higher than the current rate.
Mr Speaker.
Craig Foss.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Supplementary to the Minister of Finance. Why are interest rates beginning to return?
The Honourable Bill English.
Mr Speaker, the Reserve Bank's monetary policy statement points out that a range of measures were used to combat the global crisis. This included fiscal stimulus, a very sharp reduction in interest rates, and offering deposit guarantees. To date, these measures have been largely successful. Their financial system is sound and the economy is growing again. To the extent that these measures are no longer needed and the economy is growing again out of recession, then interest rates will begin to return to normal.
The Honourable David Cunliffe.
Mr Speaker, to the Minister, how does he expect New Zealanders to meet the extra mortgage payments that he says are now normal under national, when their tax cut will be eliminated by inflation rising to 6%?
The Honourable Bill English.
Well, Mr Speaker, the member is wrong about the tax cut and inflation as we discussed at Select Committee. But I think New Zealanders are well aware that an increase in interest rates means that it would be good for those who have too much debt to try and reduce that debt. It also means that those savers who saw their incomes cut dramatically through 2007 and 2008 will be looking forward to some increase in income from their savings.
Craig Foss.
Speaker, supplementary to the Minister. How will the government's management of the economy help keep interest rates lower than they would have otherwise have been under previous government policies?
The Honourable Bill English.
Well, Mr Speaker, that's really the point here, is not so much whether there's going to be increases in interest rates. That is inevitable, not just in New Zealand, but around really the whole of the developed world. The question is to the extent to which we can ensure we don't repeat the mistakes of the past, and that is to foster a speculative boom in property and fast rising government expenditure. Those were the policies of the previous government that caused so much damage to this economy.
The Honourable David Cunliffe.
Mr Speaker, can he confirm that higher interest rates will make life tougher for Kiwi businesses who face higher loan costs and, if they export, potentially higher exchange rates as a result?
The Honourable Bill English.
Mr Speaker, there is no doubt that for people who hold debt, an increase in their interest rates means more outgoings to service that debt. But I think we all ought to be quite realistic here. When interest rates are at a 40-year low and interest rates are starting to rise from levels of 1 and 2% around the world, we are bound to have an increase in interest rates, which will put pressure on people who are holding debt. Our task is to ensure that that cycle is not as vicious as the last one, which that member's government oversaw.
Mr Speaker.
The Honourable David Cunliffe.
Mr Speaker, to the Minister, will therefore, on top of increased mortgage payments, increased childcare costs, recent increases in power, what other price movements can he expect hard-working New Zealanders will face as a result of his budget?
The Honourable Bill English.
Mr Speaker, there's two other movements they will face. One is an increase in their after-tax income because of across-the-board tax cuts, and secondly, increases in their gross income as this economy grows. Those are both built into the budget forecasts and into public expectations.
Question number 4, Kevin Haig.